If you play a stereo long enough, the police come down, and they should. That's noise pollution. How about this noise pollution? It's worse than a stereo. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy?
To a prior speaker, unimproved terrain it's not a private way, it's not a roadway, it's not improved in any way. So it's not a pathway, it's not a public way. The board unanimously urges you to vote down this amendment. This amendment would take the teeth out of the article. We worked long and hard with town council and the residents to address the issue that was brought before the body last April. We would urge you to defeat the amendment and to pass the main motion. Thank you.
Mr. Piero, and then
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
please state your name and address, sir.
17 Roger Circle. Ladies and gentlemen, you know they create a problem. It's the trouble. You people should tell them to be kind in this town. My road up and down. But the name in the world's good. Tell your kids, please, take it easy. All for hours up and down from North Street down 62. They're creating a problem. I don't care if they have what kind of bike they have, but let's be human beings in this town here.
Gentleman at the microphone.
Tony Romano, 8 Marshall Street. It's certainly not my intention to try and circumvent the work that the town council and the Board of Selectmen have done. And my only concern in putting this amendment forth is that somebody could legally challenge it, and you know, it just wouldn't stand. If they've already gone with town council on this and they feel confident that this is the best wording for it, yeah, I really don't want to dispute with it. I mean, because I do agree with the intent of this. My concern is simply that it won't stand. And I agree that 5 people running around on one piece of land is certainly a nuisance, but not being a lawyer, I still don't see how you can legally preclude that, but I don't pretend to be an expert on it.
On the motion to amend, Police Chief Henry Purnell.
Thank you. You got to remember one thing. Under the amendment, if you went to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, you could get a recreational sticker, which makes it legal across roads, which would make this legal, that they could have 4 or 5 of these things on somebody's property without. So all you need is a recreational sticker. Go to the registry, $5 to $10, which would make the amendment legal.
On the motion to amend, all those in favor of amending the main motion, please say aye. Those opposed? The motion to amend is lost. We're back to the main motion. On the main motion, this is a bylaw amendment. An amendment to the general bylaws of the town of North Reading requires a simple majority vote. On the main motion, all those in favor of the main motion, please say aye. Those opposed? The chair is in doubt. All those in favor, please raise your right hands, and would my tellers please go to work.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator? Point of information? Were we finished with the discussion on this amendment?
There was nobody who was rising to be recognized.
You didn't open the floor.
The chair did not see anybody rising to be recognized, and so the discussion was completed.
I didn't hear you ask if there was any more discussion on the amendment once the amendment to change it was brought up.
The chair is regretful, but Mr. Lidotes.
30.
30. Mr. Romano. 54. Mr. Jones. 68. All those opposed, please raise your right hand. Mr. Lidotis?
11.
11. Mr. Romano?
12.
12. Mr. Jones?
7.
7. The vote is 152 in favor, 30 opposed. The bylaw amendment carries. Article 3. Mr. Murphy.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the following persons be admitted to the meeting. The Honorable Bruce Tarr, our state senator, Rob Crugnali, 3 Strawberry Lane, Al Walker, 11 Flash Road.
You've heard the motion to admit 3 people to the meeting. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Vino.
Mr. Moderator, I move to amend the code of the town of North Reading by adding section 158-9, snow removal on streets and sidewalks, to the general bylaws as specified in Article 3 as printed in the warrant.
You've heard the motion to amend the town's code. Does the Finance Committee wish to make a recommendation? The answer is in the negative. Does the Board of Selectmen wish to make a recommendation, Mr. Vino?
The Board of Selectmen unanimously recommend.
On the motion, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the motion to present the motion? Please state your name and address, madam.
Margaret Robertson, 374 Park Street. I'm a member of the Commission on Disability. We feel that this bylaw would benefit pedestrians who are elders, children, or those who have disabilities in making walking routes safer around town and accessible for most of the year. It is our hope that this bylaw will ensure that the sidewalk access is not blocked by snow piles and will be regularly cleared of snow. Many times businesses plow their driveways and sidewalk access is blocked with piles of snow. Even with a small snowfall, these piles can be 3 to 4 feet tall, much taller during larger snowfalls, over 10 feet tall. And they don't melt quickly. Even when the snow in the area may have melted, these mounds of snow block sidewalk access, forcing one to walk into the street or climb over. This presents a safety issue for all pedestrians by making them walk into busy streets or climb, if they're able to, large mounds of possibly unstable or icy snow piles.
And my name is Michael
Thank you.
Scannell, 44 Burroughs Road, also a member of
Just
the...
a moment, please, sir. You'll have to be recognized by the moderator. Please state your
Excuse
name
me.
and address, sir.
My name is Michael Scannell, 44 Burroughs Road, member of the Commission on Disabilities.
Thank you. Go ahead and speak.
As Meg said, we on the North Reading Disability Commission presented this warrant article, but not just on behalf of the disabled people in town, on behalf of mothers with strollers, on behalf of our elderly parents, and anybody that's had trouble getting around town in the snow realizes that part of what happens is the municipal plows plow the streets, and then these private plow companies that are plowing for businesses in town will then plow out the parking lots, and you end up with basically what amounts to a wall between you and where you need to go. So we would ask everyone to strongly support this article.
Thank you, sir. Lady at the microphone, please state your name and address, ma'am.
Carol Digman, 7 Strawberry Lane. I have a question under Section C. Does this refer to only residential or non-residential areas, or is this any sidewalk that somebody, like if your neighbor has their driveway plowed and they plow the sidewalk that you shoveled so nicely for your neighbor? Does it apply to that sort of circumstance?
To answer the question, go ahead, ma'am.
It's only, it's not residential. It's only referring to commercial businesses.
Okay, so even Section C is just for, it's not specific in there.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on Article 3? Please state your name and address, sir.
Jeffrey Ewell, 420
27 Park Street. Excuse me. Being that it doesn't include residential, is there any reason why the residents were left out of this? We have sidewalks too, and we have certain obligations, just like the businesses do. People walk on the sidewalks in front of houses. People leave their snow from the driveway. So the wording in C seems to appear no person. It's not talking business. It seems to be talking a person. So is there any way we can include the residents in this? I would be glad to shovel my driveway for anybody.
To answer the question, ma'am.
I don't have a problem adding residents to it.
Well, the chair does. Basically, the question is whether people properly notified that this might affect residential areas, and if it is now phrased in such a way that it does not include residential areas, then to include them will expand the scope of the motion and therefore would not be the proper order. What you should do if you're concerned about that is to contact the Board of Selectmen and the Bylaw Committee or whoever, the Commission on Disabilities, whoever, and ask them to bring an article to expand the scope to the next town meeting, either in April or a year from now.
Okay, I think Vino
Mr. Vino.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to be sure this is very clear. This does cover residential also. We just checked with Town Council. Section C does include residential.
Okay. Ms. Jenkins.
I'd like to ask Town Council, if a resident were on vacation, did not shovel their sidewalks, and someone fell on that sidewalk, would the resident then be liable for a lawsuit for not plowing or shoveling the sidewalk?
Mr. Giorgio, would you care to answer Ms. Jenkins' question, if that is possible? Mr. Giorgio is Town Council.
Mr. Moderator, through you to the previous speaker, subsection A deals with reasonable efforts to keep sidewalks clear, and that applies only in non-residential buildings. Subparagraph C prohibits anyone in town, residential, commercial, or whatever, from placing snow on the way once it's been plowed. So if your question is whether or not someone who, well, I guess I would like you to restate your question then based upon that explanation.
If I am not at my residence, say I go to Florida for the winter,
Right.
and I am not home to shovel my sidewalk, am I liable for any accidents that might happen on my not shoveled sidewalk?
The obligation to shovel, Mr. Moderator,
Go ahead,
through
Mr.
the previous
Giorgio.
speaker, the obligation to shovel the sidewalk is contained in subsection A, and that refers to non-residential purposes. So if you're concerned about your own residence and you're in Florida, this bylaw doesn't require you as a residential use to clear the sidewalk. The only residential use that is affected is subsection C, and that would prevent you from taking your snow blower, cleaning your driveway, and pushing the snow out into the way after it's been plowed. So if you're in Florida, you're not going to be doing your driveway, so you're not going to have a problem with subsection C.
Gentleman at the microphone, please state your name and address, sir.
Jack Collins, 23 Tower Hill Road. The town typically plows one side of streets for the children to get to school. You saying that the other side of the street has to be plowed as well, or do the residents have to plow the sidewalk on the other side of the street themselves?
Mr. Giorgio.
Mr. Moderator, the obligation to plow the sidewalk is only in front of non-residential structures. So if you have a residence, you don't have the obligation to plow the sidewalk.
Gentleman at the microphone, please state your name and address, sir.
Chuck Galant, 14 Bishop's Way. Section C says, no snow shall be plowed across any public way by any private plow to deposit snow from one property to another. So that means that